My name is Cameron, and I lead the customer success team here at ActivePipe. I'm excited to have everyone joining us for today's session. We are going to have a special guest, Nathan McKinnon, who leads our product team. And Nathan's going to be walking us through two exciting new releases that are live today. And so really what these are going to help you with, and we hear this time and time again from brokers and agents all across the United States here, is that they want to get more insights into ActivePipe around the contacts or consumers that they're working with and the properties that they're showcasing. So what Nathan's going to be highlighting for us today are two really powerful ways that you're going to be able to do that here in ActivePipe, both through being able to import buyer preferences for your contacts, so you can really start to deliver more tailored and personalized properties to your contacts. And then as well, an exciting new release for our open house feedback survey. So this is really pertinent to help you identify those really interested buyers in your network and to be able to showcase to your sellers all the interest that you're generating around a property and the feedback that you're getting from it. So I'm excited to have Nathan here today. He's going to walk us through each of these in a little more detail, and then we'll come together as a group towards the end and make sure we answer any questions that are out there. So be sure, even though everyone is muted today, to drop your questions into the chat box, and we'll be actively monitoring that through the course of today's webinar. With that being said, Nathan, I'm going to pass it over to you.
Thanks, Cam. Hi, everyone, and welcome from Melbourne, Australia, where it is bright and early, 7 in the morning for me. So I'm ready to run you all through some of our new features, talk to you about how they can be used, and explain some of the use cases as well. So I'm going to just share my screen. And as Cam mentioned, if you have questions along the way, just add them in the chat, and we can get to those at the end. So I'm going to be covering off two features today. One of the features is around the type of data that you can now import with your CSV. And the other feature is around a new landing page that we've enabled. So I'm going to start with the importing piece. So I'll explain how you can import this data, and then I'll explain how you can use that data once it's been imported. So what I'll do is I'll run through a contact import first. So I'm just going to go over here and click import contacts, and I've got some CSVs prepared. One moment. All right, so I'm just going to drag a CSV over here and start the import process. So we can see a whole bunch of fields here. So this is the CSV that I'm using for reference. So I might, I'll reference this a few times during the upload. So this is my CSV, and you can see I've got fields like your regular kind of contact fields, first name, last name, email. I also have classification, listing type, I have bedroom preferences, bathrooms, parking, building size, and lot size. So let's jump back over to the importer. So this is the CSV. That was the CSV I've uploaded. And now you can see here that we've got all of these fields that have now mapped. If fields haven't mapped, you can go and manually map them yourself. So let me just map all these fields, and then we'll talk through them a bit more. So parking min, I'm just going to come and find this in this list. So you can see we've got this new section called preferences, and this is the contact preferences that we're going to, I'll explain more in this demo. So I'm just going to map parking min to parking min. Here we've got building size min. I'm going to look in this list for building size min. I can see it here. And then I've got building size max. I can see that. Yeah. Okay, so now I've got all my fields mapped. Now don't worry about, I'm going to explain more about what these fields are used for in a minute. But right now I'm just talking about the uploading process, so we can get back to some of the details around what these fields are for. But the point here, the takeaway here is you can upload your preferences, and you can look for the mapping in this new preferences group that we've included. So now I'm going to talk through some of the things that can happen while you're uploading your data. So this CSV actually intentionally has some issues in it. So what we're going to see here is a warning. So what we've done is we've tried to make it as easy as possible, or give you as much feedback as possible while you're uploading your CSVs. So in this case, it's telling me that my bedrooms min and bedrooms max fields have issues in them. So what we've done here is we've actually exposed a link directly to our knowledge center. So this can really help you format your CSV in the right kind of shape. So what you can do here, if you're running into this issue, you can click that link and you can look for the field that had an issue. So it was telling me here that my bedrooms fields had a problem. So I can go and have a look at the bedrooms fields. And what it will tell me here is the names of the fields, but it'll also tell me the data, the shape of the data. So this field has to be a number. So it needs to be the number like 4. Can't be words, or it can't be comma separated or have decimals. So we can see in this CSV, this is the CSV I just uploaded. We've got a word in this field. So this is where I'm getting an error. So that is just a way to kind of help you navigate these issues you run into. And then what you can do is you can just get your CSV, format the data and re-upload it. Or you can actually choose if that field is actually inappropriate, you know, it was a mistake, or you don't want to actually import that field. You can just choose to ignore that. So let's just, in this instance, say we don't want to upload those bedroom fields. We can just come up here and click ignore. And that will just skip those fields from the import, and we can carry on and upload all the rest of our data. What I want to do is upload another CSV that we'll get through, and I can show you the full upload. So let's just map these fields: parking, building size. Okay, so we'll go through the full upload now. So once you've uploaded it, you'll get this step here that gives you an overview of what the data is going to look like. This is so you can review your data. You can always tag this upload. So you could call this contacts with preferences or something to identify this particular list. So then once we get to the last screen, I'll just show another addition that we've made. So on this last screen, you may have gone through this upload process before, but this last screen is new. We've tried to make it a lot clearer as to kind of the outcomes of the upload and give some more assistance when things haven't gone well. So you see here, we've got these information boxes that will kind of tell you the basic details about this upload. So how many rows there were. You can see in my case, I've already uploaded these contacts before, so they're actually updated, they're not new. There was one skipped contact and, one skipped contact, yeah, and 3 instances where the data was skipped. So you can now scroll down and you can see these tables that will tell you a bit more information about that. So if a contact's been skipped, it'll give you information about that skipped contact. In this case, it didn't have a phone number or an email address. You can download all the records that were skipped as well, and you can just format those and upload that individual record or however many there were. In this case, where the data was skipped, it'll tell me why the data was skipped, but what we've also included here is another link to our Knowledge Center, and this will help you walk through all the reasons why the data might have been skipped, so you can resolve that issue. All right, so that's the full upload experience. A lot of that was, would be familiar for you if you've been using the CSV uploader. The main thing here is the addition of that preferences section where you can now upload those preferences. So I want to talk a bit more now on how to access the preferences and use them in the app and some of the things you can actually do with these preferences. So let us go to a contact. Now on the contact's profile, you can click this little button here and it opens up the contacts drawer. And we've got two tabs here. You've got profile and you've got preferences. So preferences is where those preferences that we just uploaded are going to live. So you'll view them all in here. But you can also come in here and edit them. So if you haven't uploaded preferences, this section is also has also been updated in this recent change. So you can come into the contact and you can view them directly, and you can edit their preferences manually. So if you're speaking on the phone to them and getting their preferences off them that way, you can add them in, or if they've emailed you directly. So we can be looking at things like their classification. So this is one of ActivePipe's. We have these main buckets that we persona types that we put our contacts into. So you can put them into one of these buckets. But then you can also choose if they've got a particular location that they're interested in, the zoning type. So if they're interested in rural, commercial, residential, the type of property they're interested in. So there's a long list of property types that they could be interested in. Bedrooms, bathrooms, car parks, price range, the lot size. So that's the size of the property, the land, and then the building size. So you can add all of these in manually, and if they're interested in buying or renting. So this is how you can view or edit any of those preferences. Now I want to show you the two places where you can use those preferences. So there's really two kinds of things you can do with preferences. One of those is to segment your database. So this is a really powerful way of kind of creating groups of people that you can send relevant content to. And you do that by creating audiences. So if I were to create an audience, you can come in here, and like with the CSV uploader, you've got this new section. You've got this section called preferences. So we want to add a new filter, and that preference may be, let's say, some common examples. You might want to create a audience of people who are interested in like more luxury listings, for example. So I might set a price range. So let's say their minimum price is greater than 800,000, for example. So this is kind of segmenting your contacts that way. But you could do all sorts of things. You could choose to maybe segment your contacts by the area that they're interested in. So if you want to carve out the different market areas that you service, and then you can tailor your content to those areas specifically. So one example is you might want to segment your audience based off the area they're interested in, and maybe you can send like local events and local information about those areas to those different contacts. So those are some of the ways that you can segment your database. Now, I want to show you how you can also use this information in the email to personalize the property information they'll receive. So I'm just going to jump in and create an email here. I can spell. Keep in mind it's very early for me. Okay, so I'm in the email editor, and I'm going to drag in a property panel. So in ActivePipe, there's two ways of choosing a property. So you can always click this little house icon, and you can manually select a property. So I could jump in and click a property this way. But the other way we have is through what we call the feed. So if I toggle this on, I'm going to enable this feed. And what I can do with that feed is I can define rules that determine which properties will show up. So what this is going to mean is you're not actually going to choose the properties. You're just going to set the parameters, and the properties that match those parameters will appear in this list. So you can just set general parameters, like the type of property. So if you only want to show houses, like single family homes, you can set parameters that way. But what we're going to talk about here is the contact section. So what this is going to do is this is going to mean that each contact that receives this email will get a specific set of properties that match their criteria. So you're not actually sending out the same email to everyone. Every contact will receive their own version of the email, at least for this property panel section. And how it's going to work is we can match on contact requirements. So before, if we just uploaded a list that had things like price range, if I tick this box here, what it's actually going to do is for every contact who specified their price range, they're only going to see properties, listings that match that price range. And I can choose, you can choose to be really specific or quite broad. So like you could just match on price or you can match on everything. So if I check all these boxes, it's going to be very, very specific to that exact set of preferences that contact specified. So yeah, you can be as broad or specific as you like. Some use cases. Oh, and sorry, just to one thing to mention here. I'm actually on an Australian account. You'd be seeing like a zip code, for example. So one common use case could be you send localized listings. So maybe you don't match on their property preferences, but just their location preference. But a very common one would be to match on price and bedrooms. One other thing you can do is you can also just choose to toggle on Smart Match. Now what Smart Match will do is it will automatically take into account all of those preferences that were uploaded, but it will also allow the contact to, it will also build up a profile based off what the contact's interacting with. So if the contact told us they're interested in properties between 500,000 and 600,000, but they're actually also clicking on properties that are maybe 480, 490, Smart Match will take that into account because we'll use the contact's behavior to tell us what they're interested in as well as their preference. So we'll actually start to show them some houses in that range. So Smart Match is kind of a bit more broader and it takes both the preference and the behavior into account. The other thing to note with Smart Match is it's really just a way of prioritizing, sorting that list of properties to be the most relevant at the top. So this won't actually remove properties outside of the range. It will just sort them so the most relevant ones appear at the top through to least relevant. With filters, this will only show properties that match those filters. So again, it's kind of up to you the type of email you want to build. If you want to build a very precise email that will not show anything but what they're interested in, you'd use requirements. If you want to also take into account their behavior, but you're happy to show some additional listings, maybe the ones that they're not necessarily interested in, you'd use Smart Match. Okay, so I want to talk about one use case, one type of campaign you can set up using these preferences now. So a common campaign we set up is a just listed alert. So I'm going to walk through that from the campaign, and then I'll build the email and show you how to do that. So I'm going to make a just listed campaign. So what I'd do here is I'd select all contacts. You can choose that audience. I'll just start with all contacts. And then I'll do a date and time, and then we'll send an email. So what I want to do with this campaign is, let's say at 9 a.m., and let's just start it today. But I actually want to repeat this every day. Oops, every day. So this is saying at 9 a.m. every day, starting from today, we're going to send an email. Now I'm going to create this email now. Just listed. Now in this email, I'm going to drag in a property panel. So you can give any kind of introduction you want, but I'll just drag in a property panel. Actually, I'll drag in a feature panel. So this is something that's going to go out regularly. It's about the new properties you've listed. So a feature panel is probably more appropriate here. Oops, sorry. And what I'm going to do is going to toggle on this feed. And then I'm going to define these rules. So you can do things like only including your own listings here as well. That's what you typically want to do in these type of campaigns. And then I want to come in here and match on these contact preferences. So again, you can get as specific as you want. Now, just to know, in this instance, you wouldn't use Smart Match because we do actually want to filter out anything that's not relevant. So let's say we want to match when a property matches a price range, bedrooms, and postcode or zip code, sorry. Now, if I click this, you'll actually see that the property here disappears. And that's because this panel now is going to be matching off the contact preference. Now, right now, we aren't a contact, so we don't match any criteria. But when this goes to send for a given contact, this will be replaced with the property that matches their criteria. Now, what's going to happen with this email is it's only going to send if a property matches. So every day this campaign will run at 9 a.m. We'll try to send all these emails and we'll check, does any property match this contacts for every contact in the audience? Does it match their price, bedroom, and postcode? If it does not, the email just doesn't send. If it does, it will put the property into this panel and it will send the email to that contact. So remember, this is contact specific content now. So maybe 2 out of 100 happen to match that property in terms of their preference, it will send to 2 people. If no contacts match the preference, or if no property has been listed, actually, sorry, I missed one piece. If no property has been listed, it also won't send. But let me just show you one thing that I did miss, sorry. We also want to say that the property was listed in the last day. So because this is running every morning, we're only looking for properties that were listed in the last day. And we're only wanting to send to contacts who that property matches the preferences of. Okay, so that's how you set up a just listed campaign. Now you can set this up and just let it run forever. And remember, it's only going to send if you make a new listing and if that listing happens to match preferences of the contact in your database. So it doesn't matter, this can run for a year and it may never send. It will just sit there ready in the background for when one of those things happen. Okay, so those are a few examples of how we can use preferences. A just listed campaign is a really powerful tool. Remember, you can also you can segment your database, or you can just apply general filters in an email, or it also powers Smart Match. So those are some use cases there. So I'm actually going to shift gears to another feature, but it might be worth just maybe we could answer any questions that there are around this one. I don't know if there are any, sorry, I haven't been. Do we have anything now, Cam, or should I move on?
Most of the questions so far have centered around Smart Match and how buyer preferences play into there. So if you want to provide any additional context there, otherwise we might be good to move on.
Yeah, so Smart Match will, it takes into account multiple sources. So it does take into account the preference, but if the contact's behaving, if they're clicking on things outside the preference, we basically build a separate profile of that contact. So we take into account both the preference and their behavior. If their behavior aligns with their preference, then nothing really changes. If their behavior is kind of diverging from their preferences, then the profile kind of shifts as well. The other benefit of Smart Match is you might only have 1 or 2 pieces of preferences around a contact. Maybe you only got their price range, or maybe you only got the suburb that they're interested in. Smart Match can kind of round out that profile by understanding, okay, we know their suburb they're interested in, but now we've learned that they're actually interested in this price range and they're interested in this type of bedroom range. And that's just based off what they're telling us by the properties they're choosing to interact with. So if they're only interacting with 2-bedroom, single-family homes, $600,000, then we've built up a really solid profile, understanding of what that contact's interested in. So yeah, Smart Match, a combination of the interactions and the preferences.
Wonderful. That's very helpful.
Okay, so I'm going to move on to the next feature that we've enabled here. And actually that's back in the email editor. So let me just jump in here. Okay, so the next feature we've enabled, now this is actually for our enterprise customers. So you may or may not have this functionality in your account today, but it's available. And if you are interested in this type of feature, you can talk to your account rep, email support. We can give you details about the enterprise account. But what I'm going to show is this is a new landing page that we've enabled. So in the enterprise product, you get access to a range of landing pages. This is an addition to that set. So if I jump in here in a button panel, I can actually choose from a few different types of links. Now, this may also be new to you. We've recently made some changes to the button panel. So I'll just give a brief overview. Basically, what we've enabled are different types of links. So you might want to include, say, an email address. So this would mean that when the contact clicks this button, it'll automatically open up their email client. You can choose what the email address is that will be defaulted in there. You can put the subject in, and you can even put some placeholder content in there. So it's the email. You can put a telephone link, which means when they click this button, it'll automatically open their call app. Social, so this links to any of your social pages. So the new ones here that we're talking about are landing pages. System links will be things like unsubscribe, the preference center, and view email online. So I'm going to open up landing pages. So this is the set of features that you'll get on Enterprise. And we often offer a range of landing pages. Basically, the idea here is these are ways of getting to build up a better understanding of your database. So there's actually one here that's relevant to what we were talking about earlier, which is contact property preferences. So this is actually a survey that asks contacts to fill in their buying criteria. So let's actually have a look. You can preview all of these pages. So if you think these preferences are really valuable, all the stuff that I just showed you before, but you don't have them, we actually offer a survey to help you get that information. So you can email out to your list, and the contact will go through a series of questions. So what do you, how do you classify yourself? So let's say I'm an investor. And what type of property am I interested in? Houses. They can specify their price range. They can specify their bedroom count. And they can actually choose which locations they're looking to buy. So you can enter multiple locations. I could be looking in multiple adjacent areas, or maybe I'm even looking at two totally separate areas. So I can actually provide all my preferences. They'll then be persisted into the app and will be able to be used just like what we looked through before. So that's just one example of a landing page. There's a whole bunch of different things there that you can get access to. But what I want to show today is this property feedback landing page. So this one's a little different because when we select it, it actually asks us to pick a property. So I'm going to pick one of these listings. And now I can preview the link again here. So what this landing page will enable is it's basically a form where the contact can provide feedback about a specific listing. Now, where this is most commonly used is following like an open home, for example. You can send this out to all the people who attended. So if you're collecting people's emails as they come through, you can follow up with an email to them asking for some feedback on the listing they just viewed. So you can ask them for details on the presentation, the location, the price, value. Really important one is if they have an ongoing interest in the property. So you can know, 80% of people are actually interested in buying this. And some basic details at the bottom here. So what's really powerful about this is you can take this information back to the seller after the open home, and you can have a really good conversation to them about how we can potentially add more value to the home. if you're finding that presentation is scoring really low, maybe you can work with the seller to improve the presentation of the property, put a bit more work into that, and maybe you can generate a better price for them. So that's what this information is typically used for. It's to collect and then have a conversation with the seller about how you can improve the value of the home. Now, when a contact fills out one of these, you're going to get notified, and I'll show you where it also will appear in the app. And so if I go back into the app and go to my dashboard, okay, I can see here, so under property notifications, you can see you've got this one property feedback. So I click through here, I can click on this, and this will give you a list of all the feedbacks you've received. It'll tell you the contact's details, which property it was for, show you the rating, those star ratings that we looked at before. The general feedback will appear here on the right. And you can then kind of jump in and view the property or view the contact as well. You'll also get an email notification anytime a preference is feedback is filled out. So you'll get these in your inbox, but you also have a dashboard of them in ActivePipe. Okay, so I think that basically wraps up the property feedback. Okay, well, I hope you all found that valuable. It was great spending some time with you all and running you through these new features.
Yeah, thanks so much for joining, Nathan. And thank you all for joining us as well to learn about these two exciting new features. If you do have any questions about today's session, please reach out to our support team at support@activepipe.com. I'll drop that into the chat box right now. And then as well, be on the lookout for an email from us with a recording of today's session. And we certainly look forward to seeing you on our one of our next sessions.